Okay, so the course is called The Mysteries of Language, and it's a course for first-year students. It is intended as an informal introduction into linguistics. So we use a well-known American textbook by Fromkin and others. However, the course is in no way a duplicate of the first-year course that is compulsory for all students, the theory of language. The topics that we cover and the approaches that we use are characteristic of Western linguistics. An example, the course incorporates elements of neurolinguistics, which is very popular here as well, but which is not usually included as part of introductory courses into linguistics in Russia. However, usually that's a part of American linguistic introductory courses. So we're going to get a little glimpse into what neurolinguistics is like. We'll read articles about aphasia, which is a language disorder that results from brain damage. And the study of aphasia is very important because it reveals the way how our language works in our brain. We will try to invent our own tests, linguistic tests, to assess different types of aphasia and look into different types of aphasia that have been discovered up to date. So another example is gender linguistics, in particular the so-called gender-neutral language. That's a linguistic tendency aimed at eliminating masculine gender as a default grammatical gender, as well as any other gender prejudice in language. When people try to speak gender-neutral English, they tend to use expressions like police officer instead of policeman, or flight attendant instead of a stewardess, because the traditional expressions are supposed to carry unwanted connotations. This gender-neutral language is rather an important part of English-speaking linguistic and not only linguistic discourse. However, it is practically a non-issue in Russian linguistics and Russian discourse. Nobody would be offended at being called a stewardess or учительница. Such words do not carry any negative connotations in Russian. So it is an important contrast between American, or more generally Western approaches to linguistics and what is an interesting object of study, and the Russian approach. And it's interesting to think about the cultural differences that bring about this difference in linguistic approaches. So a comparative angle is an important part of this course. We contrast both English and Russian languages as objects of linguistic research and English and Russian linguistic approaches. Another example, when we study morphology, we look at neologisms that enter English and Russian language, that has recently entered those two languages. Those neologisms are revealing of the cultural differences. One example, Russian language borrows a lot of terminology from English, and there is a lot of terminology associated with finances, with computers, with technologies that enters Russian or has recently entered Russian. However, there are some spheres of English where new words or neologisms also appear. However, it is unlikely that they will enter Russian. One such sphere is human relationships. There are many interesting new expressions in English that are probably not going to enter Russian at all. Some examples. Boomerang child. A boomerang child in English means a child, well, an adult child, and a young man or a young woman who have graduated from college, and after not finding any job, they come back to their parents' house. So a boomerang child is a child who returns to his or her parents' home after college. This expression has not been borrowed into Russian for reasons that are probably obvious. Another example, helicopter parents. In English, this expression, this idiom, refers to parents who control their child too much. This expression has not been borrowed into Russian, and it's unlikely that it will be. So these and many other examples illustrate the cultural differences between America and Russia, and the ways in which this culture influences linguistic processes. We cover some other topics as well. One interesting topic is speech mistakes. Speech mistakes reveal a lot about how language works in our brain, so it also has to do with the language and brain part of the course. For example, some mistakes are very common. Almost all children, English-speaking children, when they learn how to speak, produce what is called telegraphic speech, something like John going or mommy not dancing. And this is a mistake that almost every child makes. However, there are mistakes which are never made by English-speaking children. For example, they never say, I not am going, or mommy dances not. And again, the mistakes that are made and the mistakes that aren't made reveal a lot about the structure of the language and how language works in our brain. Another interesting area that we're looking at is humans versus computers. It is well known that there are many ambiguous sentences in language, or sentences that can be interpreted in more than one way. And the study of the computational linguistics has revealed that certain ambiguities are noticed by computers but are not noticed by people. And we're looking at the reasons why that is so and at the ways how we can teach computers to disambiguate these sentences. Well, one such example would be a sentence, kids make nutritious snacks, which people would understand only as children are making food. However, a computer can understand this as one can make good food from children. Obviously, people would not think of that interpretation. The seminar is very interactive. We have informal discussions and debates, and at the same time, we learn important notions and terms of linguistics in English, and during the course we read and discuss linguistic articles in English, make presentations, small presentations. Sometimes we have online forum discussions on different interesting issues. We use English and occasionally Russian linguistic material, and the main requirement of the course is active participation plus a presentation at the end based on the student's own research of some linguistic mystery. And an example of mysteries that can be studied and made into a presentation are these. For example, the prefix "un" in English. Explain its use and meaning. For example, why do we have adjectives like unhappy, but we don't have an adjective like unsaid? Another example could be from semantics. One can study the idiom "let alone" and explain its meaning. So, for example, what do we imply about John and Mary when we say a sentence like, John didn't solve this problem, let alone Mary? Another possible topic for research would be, for example, why there are so many euphemistic expressions. Euphemism means that you use some other expression instead of directly naming something. So why there are so many euphemistic or slang expressions associated with, let's say, failing one's exams. You can say, I croaked my exam, I flashed my exam, I flunked my exam, I busted my exam, but you do not have any slang expressions or euphemism associated with passing one exams. Or why, for example, you have so many euphemisms associated with bribing, such as slip somebody the money, grease the wheels, but there are no euphemisms associated with being honest. There are many euphemistic expressions associated with dying, but there aren't many, or there are not at all, associated with giving birth or being alive. So, to sum up, the course introduces students to linguistic research and terminology in English, teaches them the basics of original linguistic research, teaches them the use of online resources for linguistic analysis and experiment, and all this is done in an informal and fascinating atmosphere. So, welcome.